Good morning. That is sagebrush you see in the foreground, and those are the mountains of Sedona in the background. We are at Sedona Airport on runway 3 in the Mighty Dash. Doing this as a quick proving run in response to a message on the Orbix forums from Ben. This is in the middle of a thread on what's the hardest airplane to learn, and the Q400 comes up frequently. I happen to disagree. I think it's a demanding plane to learn, but once you crack the code, it's not too bad. As a matter of fact, it's a pleasure. But Ben writes, yesterday I tested the Q400 at Sedona versus the Quality Wings BAE 146-200. The 146 is a breeze to land compared to the Q400. With the Q400, I have to come lower with power and 15 degrees of flap. Even if I touch down soon with full reverse, I take almost the entire runway, etc., etc., etc. He says they are my two favorite regional planes, and I would not be inclined to disagree with him in the least. They are magnificent. But I think the Q400 might be easier than it seems, and we're going to try it out right now. Now, in fairness, this is a 5,000 foot by 100 foot strip at the top of a mountain, surrounded by higher mountains with updrafts and downdrafts and all sorts of nasty stuff happening. It is frequently hot. It is, as we said, about 4,200 feet. I don't think, as a rule, gets planes this large in there, but it does get executive jets, it does get Gulfstreams, and so I imagine it's something that the Dash is capable of doing. I've set us up at a reasonable landing weight with about 35% load of fuel, so we're by no means empty, we're by no means cheating here. And this is, of course, Orbix's Sedona scenery. It's not perfect yet because we're doing this in prepared version 3 and the airport isn't quite ready for it. I kind of shoehorned it in. This is, of course, the mighty Majestic Dash Q400, and let me show you what we've got set up. We are basically going to fly this approach here. We are going to take off. We are going to hook a left. We're going to fly to the initial approach fix here at 8,000 feet. And that is going to take us this way. It is going to hook us a left, and we are going to come right back in. I might at some point, excuse the microphone noises, my microphone is falling off. I might at some point go visual just because there's a lot happening in a very little bit of time, and it might be a little bit more trouble operating the automatics than just flying the plane, but we'll see if we can actually see the runway. As you can see, 5,100 feet by 100. It is also downward sloping very slightly, and you know, this is by no means a breeze, but let's see what we can do. So I've already got, do a quick scan. Already got my heats on, my lights on. I've got landing altitude set, although we're really not going to pressurize ourselves to speak of, so that's not really a problem. My bus tie is off, my APU is off. I've got no cautions except for the brakes. My nose wheel steering is on, auto feather is on. We're going to do a standard end top takeoff. In other words, we're going to do 90% power, see how that works out. Flaps 10. Nothing exotic here whatsoever. I've got my trim set, got my V-speed set, and I am in nav mode, and look at all of this nasty stuff all around us. We've got the almost nasty and the really nasty, and as you can see, it's all within about 10 to 20 miles. So with all of that further ado, also I've cranked in about 10 degrees of right rudder trim so that we don't go sliding off the runway. We are going to get this party started. Advance the throttles, make sure they're stable, advance them to full, and we are rolling downhill, as you can see. If this gets a little hairy, it's because I probably should have said M-top instead of N-top and 15 degrees of flaps instead of 10, but I think we can do this. Oh yeah. Not even close. There's V1. There is rotate. We'll pitch up to our climb bar, and we will start to turn. We'll bring our gear up. And you notice how sluggishly we're accelerating.
Don't sink.
Because we're high. So I'm going to keep the flaps in because we're not accelerating quite enough. And look at that terrain getting closer. That is not pretty. So again, we're going direct to our initial approach fix. And I'll start to bring in the flaps now. And I will bring props back, and you can see we're already almost at our cruising altitude. I'm going to bring our props back to 850. Bring our speed down, because all I'm going to have to do is slow down in a second. We are capturing the altitude, and we are 12 miles away from our IAF. Okay, at cruising altitude, let's stay here. Let's already put in 1 notch of flaps. Bring our power down to about 35% torque. Should level us off nicely. Let's go into our FMS. Let's arm the approach. Let's build a VNAV profile to exity, which is our first constraint, at 8,000. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. And we are already on the path. Look at that. Boom. We're already there. Alright, so that should get us fat and happy. Let me just slow down a little bit. Stay below, stay right around 180. So there we go, we're flying to Joso. There's exity, and then we're going to start coming down from there. And if our VNAV doesn't quite do it for us, I will just start to descend manually. And we're making our turn to essentially base. And at this point, just in the interest of getting configured early, I'll throw out my gear. And I'm going to put in another notch of flaps. This is really not my V-speed. My V-speed's probably about 118. So let me just bring that right down. So at least I've got an accurate marker. Again, we're going to do flaps 15. Just using the power to keep the speed right about there. You know what? Let's get fully configured. So we're going to bring our torque down, let the speed bleed off. In a second, we'll put in our final notch of flaps. Field elevation is 5132. Okay, final natural flaps comes in. And it's going to turn us to final in 1 second. And then we'll probably just fly it manually down. Alright, so to run, I've got 5, 9, almost 10 miles once we turn final. I've got 10 miles, and I've got to lose 3,000 feet. That's 300 feet per mile. That's a nice standard glide path. Now you notice we've crept down to 140. Our flaps are at our landing position. I'm going to just put in reduced noise profile landing, which keeps the props at 850. We are turning to final. And let's see if it captures our VNAV path. If not, I'm going to start us down at about 1,100 feet. I'll bet you it's not going. There we go. Okay. And we're right down at our V approach, right there. And down we go. And I'm going to take it and descend us just a little bit faster. I'm going to bring the torque down to about 20. We are above profile. In the mountains, it's not a horrible idea to be above profile, but you'll run into the problem of going down and slowing down at the same time. So I'm going to unwind the power all the way to almost flight idle, so our speed doesn't creep up any more than that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to let it creep down slightly. Retrim. I haven't had my first cup of coffee in the morning. This could be ugly. I'm creeping just below the glide path so that I can bleed off a little bit of speed. There is the runway out yonder. And now I'm going to basically bring us right up to our descent power, which is going to be about 20% torque. Let's drift right back onto the glide path. And maybe trim a little bit better so I don't have to be yanking the yoke around the way I am. The winds are pretty much calm. You can see we're red over white on the Pappies. Just a little bit high. The key in the dash is not to get too low energy and also not to be too high and too high energy. So now I'm going to get rid of the flight director because it is telling me I have to get considerably lower and the Pappies are telling me otherwise. So I'm going to trust my eyes here. And again, you notice we're about 17% torque, and we're coming down at about 600-700 feet per minute, which is about okay. We're about 3 or 4 degrees nose down, which is about right. And I'm going to trim up very, very slightly in a second so we don't get too low. And that will bring our speed down even more. That'll get us right into the neighborhood of where we want to be landing. Okay, I'm going to come down to about 15% torque. And we're just a little high, and our speed is going to creep up as we come down. So I'm going to bring our torque down to about 12% and bring us back on glide path. We will pick up a little bit of speed. This is right where I don't want to be.
1,000.
We're coming in a little bit fast and a little bit low on the power. But here we go.
500. Plus 100.
Okay. Here we are.
Minimums.
And we're down. And we bounced. And we're on the brakes. We are only in beta. And we can make, as you can see, comfortably make the turnoff. So let me show you the profile here. Do an instant replay. You can see just how ugly this was. But this is more or less the profile. That'll get you home. Now the mistake I made was I got a little bit high at the end, so I had to come off the power a little bit at the end, and that left me behind the energy curve. So it left me low on power, cranking back a little bit. What you'll see is you'll see that I flare a little bit too much. You see how that's steepening right there? Flare a little bit too much. And smack it into the ground just a little bit. You'll see us bounce a bit, I think. And that little whistling sound you heard was when I brought the power levers to idle too soon. See, boom, little bounce, and a little bit too much flare. So probably what I could have stood to do was be just a little flatter on the approach and just a little bit more power, dragging it in just a bit more, and I would have touched down a lot more smoothly with about 2 degrees less flare. But here, take a look at it again as we come in. You'll see where I screwed up. Okay, you see I'm high, a little bit fast, and you can see we brought our power down to 9. It should be floating around 12 to 17. And you see the speed picking up, and we're still high and we're a little bit nose down, so I'm forcing ourselves back onto the glide path so that I can still hit the touchdown zone, but I am going to have to arrest all of that speed a lot quicker, which means I'm going to have to flare a bit more, and I'm still going to hit at a decent clip, which means we're going to bounce. So watch. Boom. Watch the nose come up here. See, it comes up to about almost 5. If you come up to 7 or 8, you hit the tail in this plane, and then we bounced. But even going downhill, you can see with the props only in beta, you can still scrub off plenty of speed. So if your weights are fine, you probably make it okay. So anyway, Ben, it's not perfect, but it's doable. So anyway, if anybody's got any more Dash questions, I don't know if I'm the perfect one to answer it, but I'm certainly dumb enough to try. So anyway, see everybody next time, and I'll see you on the Orbix forum.